I've been using and building games with Construct 2 for about 3 or 4 years now. In addition to building games, I also teach a couple of camps and clubs using the platform. And version 3 was announced about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, and it's been in the works ever since. Last fall, they had a private beta that I joined and was able to see some of the early releases. Earlier this spring, they released a public beta, and I've been kind of messing around with it here and there ever since. And I gotta say, it's a fantastic improvements in what they've made. The big change, the biggest change of all, is that instead of having that Windows program that you have to download, it now runs entirely within a Chrome browser. Now, I don't know if they're going to support other browsers in the future, but right now it's just for the Chrome browser. If you try to load it with Firefox or Edge or anything like that, it's just going to give you an error that you need to use the Chrome browser. But it'll absolutely be a game changer, especially for a lot of the things that we do, being able to just sit down at any machine that's got a Chrome browser and be able to start building video games with nothing to download, nothing to install, nothing to set up and configure. So I'm really looking forward to integrating the Construct 3 further into our curriculums. So the other big change, because it runs in your browser, it'll now work on Linux and Macs. A lot of the kids in our camps don't have Windows laptops. Instead, they've got a Mac laptop. And so that's been a real challenge. But now with the Construct 3, those should all go away. We should be able to use whatever laptops that the kids have. So they also, as part of the new Construct 3, they did a little bit of rebranding. So now you can actually go to construct.net is the URL. And this will take you to a website that looks like this. This has actually changed quite a bit here over the beta, so this page might look a little bit different. Now I am already logged in. There is a pretty big difference between the completely free version, without an account, and by creating an account for free. And the account is for free, so you can go ahead and create one. And I don't remember the statistics on it right off the top of my head. We'll go through that here in a minute. But if you create a free login and log in, you can actually create 2 separate layers and 50 events, which the completely free version is even more limited. So I would definitely recommend creating an account. So either way, if you've got an account or not, just go ahead and click this button that says Get Started. Like I said, this might change based on the fact that this is still a beta. You'll see there's a message here at the very bottom just indicating, hey, if you find some bugs, let us know. We know it's not perfect. So from here, you'll see this is the free trial launch, and right now you have to click this button here to launch it, and it'll spin up another tab in your browser, and you'll see it takes a few seconds to load and load everything in. All right, so now that we have it up, it's just going to give us one more final warning to remind us that this is a beta version and things may be changing, and also recommending that you make backups. I always recommend making backups, especially with a browser version, because if your browser locks up, the way Construct 3 is set up is it's not actually saving things back to their servers. You have to set up your own server, which I'll show you in a minute. But because of that, if you lock your browser up or you close your browser, any unsaved work is going to be lost. So it's just one final warning. So go ahead and click OK. Then what you'll notice is it takes you to this, which is very similar to the select a new project within the Construct 2 platform. Here you can see there's all kinds of different templates. There's some games already examples that are already here. You'll recognize some of these if you messed around with any of the previous templates or examples that shipped with Construct 2. They've got them broken out a lot different than what they did in the previous version. And I'd recommend you take a look at some of these. If for no other reason, it'll give you some ideas of some games that you can also create. We're just going to go ahead and create a blank project, as we're just going to do a quick walkthrough, and then I'm going to show you some of our other games. So let's go ahead and click New Project. So with Construct 3, it's going to actually prompt you for a name right away. So let's just go ahead and call this Walkthrough, and we're going to go ahead and just leave this. You've got a bunch of options here, but we're just going to leave it as the SD landscape. And then I'm not going to bother to change any of these other things. So we'll just go ahead and click Create. Now the first thing you'll notice is that it actually looks very, very similar to Construct 2. They've done a fantastic job just keeping that look and feel the same. And I haven't tested every single game, but I have loaded a number of our previous games, especially some of the more complicated ones, and every one of them has loaded just fine. So really no issues there. And as we go through this, you'll see a lot of things are still in the same spot as they were before. So it'll be a very easy transition to go from Construct 2 to Construct 3. So the first thing we'll do is if you click on the layout itself, you'll notice that this actually takes you to some options that used to be within the toolbar across the top. So you can see our grid, we can show the grid, and we can use the Snap to grid. Very similar before, it's just they're in a completely different spot. So keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and uncheck those. All right, so to get to our project settings, there's a couple of things you can do. One, you can click over here in the project bar, click on the project name. Ours is called Walkthrough, and this takes you here. So this is where you'll find things like the window size. They've got it called viewport size now, but this is where you can set some of these other options as well. We've used a few of these in our games, and then up at the top here is just some of the about information for your game. The other way you can get to this, if we click back here on the layout, just like before, there's this project properties view button. So if you click that, it'll take you there as well. And if you want to change your layout size, it's right here. You can go ahead and expand that, and you can see here the couple values. I often will change these to just a little bit easier to remember values if I'm not using something of the same standard default size. Now, if you want to zoom out, the easiest way to do that is to hold down the Control key and then use your mouse's wheel to zoom out. This also works to zoom in as well. This is true in the previous version of Construct as well. And then down here at the bottom, it shows you what your current zoom level is, and then it also shows you things like your mouse pointer and your active layer. All right, so let's just jump in. We'll create a real simple game. I'll just put a couple sprites on the screen and we'll add a few behaviors. So right click on your layout, say Insert New Object. You'll see this is very, very similar to what you would have on the Construct 2. I didn't even see any differences here. I think everything that was on the original base system is here as well. And I think the order is even the same. If you added any additional kind of plugins, I don't know how you can add those in on this version just yet. It may be something that's not in the beta. But we're just going to go ahead and create a sprite. So we're going to click Insert, and we'll click here. This will bring up our editor, our sprite editor. This is very, very similar. You see we've got our animations here on the right. These are all attached now, so they aren't separate, which actually I think is much better. And then we've got some of the properties, and then we've got our frames. Let's just go ahead and fill this with a color. We'll just go ahead and pick green, and we'll go ahead and close that. Now you'll notice here you can resize exactly as you did before. You can place the objects anywhere you'd want. And it does support with the control drag as well in order to do a copy or a duplicate. And then also if we want, we can, these are all the same objects, but if we want, we can go ahead and change one, and then it'll change all of them since it's the same object. So everything works the same here with the properties. Let's just call this box. And now you'll also notice the behaviors is in the same spot. We'll go ahead and say add a new behavior. Let's just go ahead and add physics. And you'll see the physics and all the other behaviors are exactly as they were before, so that'll be real easy. I'm going to add a second behavior. I'm going to add drag and drop. Then I'm going to close this. Now I'm going to add one more sprite here, and I'm just going to create a real simple ground to have these bounce on. So let's go ahead and create a different colored sprite. We'll do this green. And I'm just going to set this across the whole bottom here for right now. And then I'm also going to add the physics behavior, and I'm going to make this immovable. So now I've got a couple boxes. They've got physics. They should bounce here. And I also added drag and drop. And then I've got this here, which is my ground. I'm actually going to add one more. I'm going to add another behavior here. So let's just go ahead and add bound to layout so they don't bounce off the screen. All right, so let's name this ground. So just like with the Construct 2, it has a preview button. I'm going to click it right here. Now, as soon as I press this, it's going to pop up an error message saying that I don't allow pop-ups, which is true, and I think yours will probably do the same, which is fine. You can just go ahead and click the try again button, and then it'll automatically pop it up. This is just to avoid excessive pop-ups within websites. The browsers don't allow that. So as you saw, all of my square boxes fell to the ground, and with the drag and drop, you can see I can drag and drop them. So everything works exactly the same, and I can bounce them around. And because I put that bound to layout, we shouldn't be able to move them off the screen, but obviously I just lost one. So there you have it, a real simple game, but as you saw, everything was largely where it was in the previous version. Very simple to use. Now over here, you'll notice we've got the same right-click options. So if we wanted to create a new event sheet, or we want to preview that event sheet, or if we want to create a new layout, we can do that as well right here, add a new layout, sub-layouts. Then we have our objects here as well, and then a lot of the same capabilities that we had as trees. Now underneath this, we have our layers panel. So you can see we've got one layer, and this works exactly the same as well. One thing you may notice is that the objects bar is gone. It does look like they removed it. If we go up to the menu, we've got a view, and here's a listing of the different bars. So we've got some of the same that we saw before, but there does not appear to be a projects bar, which is fine. Honestly, just bringing things from the project over works just as well. So it wasn't really a panel that was used or necessary. It's kind of redundant as well. So a few other things real quick. If we go up to menu, you'll see here are where we can define our projects. Now there's a couple of ways in which you can save your project. If we click save, what this will do is it's going to ask us, well, where do you want to save it? And you'll have a drop down right here. Right now they're using third-party cloud platforms in order to do saving. So Dropbox, OneDrive, and Google Drive. You will need an account on one or more of those in order to save your games. The reason is that your browser itself doesn't really have a lot of storage, and I wouldn't recommend using it anyway because that browser storage is temporal and it could easily be destroyed or lost. It's not really meant for saving persistent files. So if we go back to the menu, we'll see project, we'll do save as. Now you'll notice here's another option that says save to local browser. Now each web browser does have a small local storage space. Now you can use this. The first time you pop this up, it's going to give you a disclaimer and a warning that storage may be deleted at random and it's not under Construct 3's control. I would not recommend saving things here. The other disadvantage is if you have multiple computers, these files won't go from one browser to the next. They're going to be lost, or you'll have to log back in. But this is an option. We can go ahead and click save. Now this will save it into my browser's storage. So if you want to load something in that you've saved earlier, you can go to projects, open, and then you can see open from a local browser, and it'll provide a list. Now it won't let me open this because it's already open. My recommendation would be to use one of these cloud servers. So if you click save cloud, it's going to ask you which one. I use most of these. Let's just go ahead and pick Dropbox. If you already use a Gmail account, you already have a Google Drive account, so that would be another good choice. If you don't, all three of these do have free versions, so you can actually save it to any one of them. And if you don't have an account, you can go ahead and create one for free. And then the last option for saving, which also would work very, very well if you wanted to actually download a copy. So now if you click download a copy, this is actually going to just ask you what you want your file to be called. You click save, and then it's going to save it to your local computer. Now you'll notice there's a different extension, and I didn't notice any way for it to be backward compatible. So any games you create in Construct 3, I don't think you can open them in Construct 2. But this would be a way where if you wanted to save it locally, I'm just going to save it to my downloads directory. Now we can go ahead and close this project, and we're going to say open from a file, and I'm going to go back to my directory, and I'm going to open that Construct 3 file, and now we've restored that back to the browser. Now keep in mind that is saving it on your local machine. It's not saving it on any cloud server, so it will be saved to your local computer. All right, so the last thing I'm going to show you, if you go back up to the menu and you click on account and then do view details, this will actually show your login information. Now I've created a login, my username is BlueMonkeyDev, and I can change that avatar. This just happens to be the default one it picked for me. If we click this edit profile button, which I'll show you in a minute, you can edit those. And we'll also take a look at the difference between the paid version and the free version. Right now what you'll see is this version, the free version with an account, allows you to do 50 events per project. The Construct 2 free version did 100. This also lets you create up to 2 layers per layout. Now that is going to be an issue with some of the games within this course because I like to use 3 layers. I'll use the background layer for my background, the main layer for everything else, and then I'll use my HUD layer to create a heads-up display and then change that parallax. So with this free version, because that only supports 2, you'll have to get rid of your background layer and merge those, the background and the main, together. It's not a big deal. It will actually allow you to open a project that has 3 layers. It just won't let you edit them. You'll have to get rid of one of your layers before you do anything else. And then it also only supports 2 effects per project, which we don't use a lot of. And then it also supports one web font. The web fonts are pretty cool if you want to create a commercial game. So I don't really see that as a big deal right now for just learning the platform and understanding and building your own games for your own use. All right, so this is the pricing plan for the Construct 3 platform. What we've been using right here is this right here, this free trial. So what you'll notice here is it's free. Now you'll see this says events 25 and it's got an asterisk on it. If you don't create a login, then it limits you to 25. If you do create a free login, it'll bump that up to 50. So it's just a way for them to get you to log in, and that way they can get a hold of you via email as well. So definitely create a free login. And then, like I mentioned, the layers is limited to 2, and then some of these others. Now, one of the things you'll notice too is it's got very similar to the previous one. So the free version, you can't create revenue or do the royalty-free distribution and custom splash screens. Again, not a big deal if you're just building games for yourself or to impress your friends, or you want to upload them to your website. But if you do want to create revenue, you will need to upgrade to the personal or the business version. This has changed a lot as well. They've switched away from a one-time purchase of, I think it was $130, to now where it's $100 per year for the personal version, which could potentially be a lot more money over a long period of time. But I think you just get a lot more, and it's just a lot more flexible to be able to run that within your web browser. All right, so I loaded in our big bunny hop game, and you'll notice it says this project exceeds the free edition limits. The reason it's exceeding that is right here because of the layers. I'm using 3 layers, and the free version only supports 2, which isn't a big deal. If we go ahead and close this, it'll let us continue to do things on this game. I just can't edit it. Now what you can do is you can go in and you can delete the HUD layer, or you can move everything from the background layer to the main layer and get it under 2, or get it at 2 layers, and then it'll work fine. So in the meantime, what'll happen, since I'm not going to do that right now, if we go to the event sheet and we go down to the bottom and we try to do something, it's just not going to let us do it. Now keep in mind that the free version only supports up to 50 events, so I'm right at 47, so we wouldn't be able to add a lot anyway, but this is something that will work. And so if we go down, scroll down here, you'll see the whole layout is here. Our entire game is here. We can load the other levels as well. So here's level 2. I'm just going to zoom out so you can see the whole thing. And then our boss level as well. So everything actually loaded in just fine. And if we go back, it'll let us, I'll zoom out on this one too. We can even play this game. So we'll go ahead and load that up. All right, and then you may be getting these pop-ups as well. You just click retry and then it'll load it. Again, it's the browser just blocking that pop-up. It's not a big deal. You can go in and change your browser settings if you want. And so now you can see this is our full game. And like I said, I didn't actually edit it or change it so we don't have the 3 layouts, 3 layers. So I can't actually edit the game right now, but it does play and it does work just fine. And everything, and I did test this already, so I went all the way through the boss level. So everything works exactly as it did before, but this is now loaded in the Construct 3 platform. All right, so there you have it. There's a quick walkthrough. We didn't cover a lot. I'll be doing a few other videos, and I'll probably, some of the new ones that I create, I'll use the Construct 3 platform. As you can see, the differences between 2 and 3 are not significant at all. So anything that you would have learned on Construct 2 is also going to be relevant here on Construct 3 and vice versa. So anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.